Year-end list season is looming over us, and for 2020 I did want to try and do something a bit different for some of the lists, and one of them being this list here, 10 of the best albums, or just 10 great albums that I listened to in 2020 that I think are absolutely worth your time, but they didn't come out in 2020. They are from previous years, but I have been playing them quite a lot on rotation throughout the year, and some of them are pretty much undiscovered gems in their own right. I certainly haven't seen a video like this before, so I thought it'd be great to do something like this, something a bit different, give you guys something a bit fresh. Not to say that I'm the first person to ever do this, I'm sure there is a video out there like this somewhere, but just because I haven't seen it, I thought it would be a cool idea. And don't forget as well, if you do want to try and suggest or have a say in more videos like this in the future, this wasn't recommended to me, by the way, but you can have a say if you look into my Patreon, and you can look at the different tiers, and maybe if you're interested you could donate and perhaps be an influencer for future videos, or even just want to support your guy, support me, your friend, your good friend Ryan. But of course, all the exciting lists are on the way, but here we're going to go with this first video here, the discoveries that I found in 2020 that are absolutely worth your time. Starting off the list with a 2018 release, which by the way is a running theme on this video. I noticed when I was listing out my 10 picks, quite a few came from this year, and I was saying during 2018 and when 2018 was over that it was a fantastic year for music, but it's crazy how years beyond the actual year I'm still discovering albums that would have easily made the year-end list if I'd heard them during that time period. And we're going to start with Kirara with the album Sarah. This is a completely unknown artist that I really don't know much about. This album actually recently just got took off streaming, but because I liked it so much I couldn't help myself but to donate on Bandcamp, because it is on Bandcamp if you do want to look for it there. Kirara though is in fact a South Korean artist who plays with many different genres. The main one I would say is big beat. If you want some sort of like Chemical Brothers type stuff, but maybe fused with like acid techno and just straight up in your face bangers, then this is for you. And the detail of the tracks is really impressive. They're just so fun. There's a bit of like a sort of like video gamey vibe to some of the tracks too, sort of reminiscent of someone like Shinichiro Yokota, who you guys should know by now that I absolutely love. The album is just full of life, and if I was to make another comparison too, it would be another Undiscovered Gems video that I've done this year with the aim to Kanmori, who is, I believe, a Japanese artist, but I still think there's similarities in the way that they go about their music. But still, any of the artists I've just literally said in the past 30 seconds there, check out any of those. But Kirara Sarah is an absolute gem that I needed to mention in this video. A more recognizable name for the next pick though, but still an artist that doesn't really get mentioned as much anymore these days since they broke up. That is Rilo Kiley. I think it's safe to say that Jenny Lewis has had a semi-successful solo career. A couple of the videos back in like 2014 did really well. That album is also good, but I don't think her solo stuff is quite up to scratch with what she was doing with Rilo Kiley, because my god, More Adventurous is just an absolutely stellar album. I would even say it's their best. I put it above the Execution of All Things, which a lot of people regard as the best album from them, but More Adventurous just has the pop rock slappers, like the pop rock slappers, man. This album is just so wonderful. Does He Love You? It's a hit. Portions for Foxes. And by the way, those 3 tracks all come at the start in a fantastic, stellar 3-track run, which I think is just phenomenal, and some of the best indie writing of the 2000s. If you want an indie rock release of the 2000s, yes, we've got plenty of names. It was a big era for the indie rock artists, you know, bloody Arcade Fire, The Strokes, Modest Mouse, you can name it. Probably like 100, but if any of those are going to be in your rotation. Make Rilo Kiley in that rotation as well. Definitely deserving of that, and one of the best albums of the 2000s for me now. An artist next that I have in fact done a video on, but I couldn't keep it out this list because when I was looking through the albums that I'd rated the highest in 2020, this was literally in the top 3. So I will keep this a bit shorter because obviously I have done a video on her, so you should go check that video out. But we do have Reol next with Jijitsujo. Reol in 2020 has been one of the best discoveries period, because she does in fact have the fantastic album that also came out in 2020, which is not quite as good as this 2018 release, may I add, but it doesn't really matter which one you prefer because I think both are just unbelievably good. One of the most absolutely show-stopping and exciting performers in pop music at the moment. You wouldn't think that she was though, considering how unknown she is, but believe me when I say I don't throw things like that around very often. She truly is one of the best performers in pop music at the moment. She has so much colour, character to her voice. She sounds like absolutely no one else out there. These songs are absolutely blistering and banging and just exciting from start to finish. Jesus Christ, I could talk about this all day. It's such a great release. If you want a new pop album that you need to lay your ears on, make it Reol. Make it any of the albums that Reol's put out. Please, please, please. Going all the way back to the 70s next with Lee Moses, Time and Place, who I believe he did not live a particularly long life, which is why there aren't too many releases from this man, but he is undeniably a legend in soul music. This truly is one of the best soul albums I think I've laid my ears on. The title track being absolutely fantastic, one of my favorite soul songs. I play it so often now, it's crazy to think that I hadn't even heard of this guy before 2020, but God, he's just become like a staple for me. And this album particularly, it's only like 30 minutes too. It's short and snappy. The production is fantastic. It just sounds like what you're imagining in your mind right now, what the best soul music sounds like. Think of all your favorite soul albums, your favorite soul classics. Lee Moses ticks every box. Every box, every box. A great writer, great songs, great hooks. Just go listen to it if you're a fan of this kind of music. Next we have Leonard's Grapefruit, which came out in 2016. Another undiscovered gem in its own right. This has such a great blend of genres, particularly math rock, art rock, indie rock even, progressive rock you could even call it, particularly on some of the tracks that go to like 15, 16 minutes. This is a bit of an anomaly for me, because there are albums I've heard like this in the past that don't tend to really hit me in the way that this one did, but this one is so good. Like, Jesus Christ, it's good. The vocals of this guy are fantastic. He kind of has like a Midwest emo tinge to his voice. The songwriting is stellar. The tracks are very theatrical and over the top. There was just so much effort that was put into this album. Like, it feels like a huge piece of music that is just backed by so many different performers, and you know, it feels like so many people are behind this project, and so much effort went into it. It just all comes through. Everything about this album just shines through, and to say it's barely known is particularly more impressive when you take that into account, I think. I feel like if there's any album that's going to appeal to like the indie music crowd, the indie nerds that are probably more rock leaning than any other genre, it would be Leonard. Like, seriously, lay your ears on this and I feel like you will be absolutely impressed with what you're going to hear. Another artist that I have done a video on, but like with Reol, it is just one of the best albums I've heard in 2020 that wasn't in 2020, and that is Robbie Basho's Visions of the Country. I have done a classic review of this. I do express everything that I love about it in that video, but Jesus Christ, this is like American primitivism. I did this last time in the review. Primitivism. Why? I've stumbled on so many words in this video. What is going on? Basically, music that's coming straight from the soul. Jesus Christ, the the vocals that come through this man are just straight out of the soul. Like, it's straight out of a place that you cannot describe in a way that doesn't sound abstract, because this man's voice is truly something else. Everything about it is so earthly. It just all comes across as really natural and organic. It's an incredibly impressive album for its time, but not only that, it just is an absolute classic and one of the most undiscovered gems of the classics, you could call it too, because not enough people talk about this album at all, and it's amazing. Another 2018 release next with Olafur Arnalds with the album Remember, who is an artist that has done lots of soundtracks for many different things. I believe he did the Broadchurch soundtrack actually, which was a huge TV show many years ago with Olivia Colman, David Tennant and a few other quite big names. But outside of that, he makes his own music. He put out an album this year, in fact, actually, which was pretty good, but it didn't quite live up to this one. He just has modern classical nailed down, and it is a genre that every now and then I just stumble upon an album and it just hits the right spots, because anything that has beautiful pianos and beautiful string sections and is just arranged in a way that appeals to me, it is right up my alley. And Olafur Arnalds is certainly one of the better artists of the 2010s, I think, to do this style of music. Next, I've got Adrianne Lenker with Hours Were the Birds. Just a really straightforward folk release, but Adrianne has a beautiful way with words, and not only that, but I just love her voice. I really love her voice. I know her voice is sometimes like in contention with some people. Some people find her really boring, or some people just absolutely adore her voice, and I'm of course in the latter category. You do really get a lot out of her when you sit down and read the lyrics, but not only that, just the melodies that she comes up with are just divine, just absolutely divine, like seriously. I think I prefer this album a little bit more to the one that came out this year, but even the one from this year is still one of the best I've heard of this year. So yeah, basically, if you've never listened to Big Thief or her solo stuff, then you really should, because there's plenty of great releases scattered through their discography. Rival Consoles put out a really good album this year called Articulation, and it truly deserved way more attention than it got. But another album that really deserves more attention is Rival Consoles' previous album in 2018, Persona, which I had only heard when the new album came out. And trust me when I say, what a great album this one is. Like, this is just progressive electronic at its best, and just slightly pips the most recent album to being Rival Consoles' best release. Electronic music has been a huge part of my 2020, as I keep saying in most of my videos. It just seems as though I keep finding the best releases that come from that genre. But don't be mistaken, it's not like it's only this year that has great music from that genre, because, like I say, Persona is an amazing release, and definitely up there with anyone that wants the kind of more progressive type stuff, I guess the Journey like stuff in electronic music, because these tracks do really meander and go into really exciting places, and definitely worth your time. Please check this one out. And finally, we are now at the 10th pick, would you believe, of the best albums I have discovered in 2020. And I wanted to end with one that I've actually played probably the most out of all of the ones I've mentioned here, and that is Uyama Hiroto's A Son of the Sun. A really exciting discovery for me in 2020 has been Uyama Hiroto. I was looking for just really nice instrumental hip-hop type stuff, and I got it with this. It's so replayable, and the best thing about it as well is that he has two other albums that are equally as replayable, but I just picked this one because it just so happens to be my favorite. If you're a fan of any form of instrumental hip-hop, but particularly Nujabes, I know Nujabes is a really celebrated name in instrumental hip-hop for absolutely good reason. I think Modal Soul is a fantastic release. But Uyama is a lesser known name from a similar era, and I find it a bit odd that he hasn't got quite the same amount of traction and the same amount of love as, you know, some of the other contemporaries that came out at a similar time. It just hits the spot. The melodies are wonderful. Again, it's so replayable. You can play it while you're trying to relax or anything like that, but also have a really good time with the music. And there are a few guest features that throw in some verses on some of the tracks. They're not the best rappers out there by any means, but they add to the songs really nicely. They have delicate voices. It just all works really well. And Uyama Hiroto has become one of my favorite artists, actually, just this year by discovering all of his albums, because they're also really good. And that's the list. That's it. That is the 10 picks for my favorite or best new discoveries, whatever you want to call it, in 2020, because there's been so many great albums I found, and I thought this would be a great, exciting new video to do. And like I say, not one I see very often, and there's so many exciting albums I've mentioned here that probably haven't been heard by that many people, so it's worth it. It's worth it to share new music. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video as well. And it would be great to see in the comment section, not only if you've heard some of these albums and what you think of them, but some albums that you've discovered in 2020 that you absolutely adore too. And of course, you might be able to share them with me, share them with other people, and suddenly an album is getting a lot of traction and getting passed around, and there you go, a new fan, a new audience, and it's the best way you want to share new music, really. So thank you for watching this video. Of course, we are in full swing with all the year-end lists. I do all the like miscellaneous ones first, you know, like underrated albums and that kind of stuff. So of course, they'll be coming soon, and then the actual official year-end lists will come in a couple of weeks' time. But hopefully you enjoy all the videos I put out from now until then. Subscribe if you haven't already. And that's it. Goodbye, thank you, and goodbye.